Action. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Action podcast. We have episode number 66. Good start. And today we actually
you broke your leg coming out of the gate.
Yeah, good start. But we've got a big movie this week, and it's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is the 7th installment in the series. We're also going to be talking about the film that's just seems to be causing so many waves, and it's Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel. And then third, we've got Joyride. Fourth, we have Outlaws, which is on Netflix. Fifth, we have Insidious, The Red Door, which is actually the #1 movie in the box office from last week. And last, we have The Blackening. We're both able to see that, so we did want to give our review on that as well. So Pete, let's get
we didn't have a chance to see it when it came out, and I heard great things about it, so I wanted to make sure we got some words in on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Mission Impossible. Pete, I'm definitely curious to hear your thoughts on this. I've got many of a thought. But let's go.
Amazing. Just period. It's amazing. This is for me, I love every Mission Impossible movie because they're always exciting, intense, funny, well shot and crafted, well acted, written, etc., etc., etc. And the fact that, just like Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford and the amount of effort that he puts into those performances, you get that same, if not 10 times more, from Tom Cruise
10 times more
in these Mission Impossible films. So that he's putting everything into it, and he wouldn't allow anything horrible to be put out. This was an incredible movie, and the fact that this is just part 1 is exciting for me. And just the way things have sort of been laid out so far, the opening scene was just intense by itself. It was involved the submarine, and anything submarine for me, I get very claustrophobic and fearful, and I always get very panicky, and that's how it starts, and then it just expands from there. I thought the chemistry between them still remains as strong as ever. I don't think this new girl, Haley Atwell, was in any of the other ones. I don't remember seeing.
She's a new character.
She plays Grace. She plays sort of a thief. And I won't get into too much about what she does, but I thought that she was a great addition. And Simon Pegg, this guy
was being smoking hot. That also helps.
She is easy on the eyes for sure. I thought Simon Pegg,
she killed the Captain America, so that should tell you all you need to know about her beauty.
Really, really, really well done. There's a chase sequence in Rome that was really, really suspenseful and funny. But just the plot itself was I thought very creative. And it almost, when you start getting into what the plot is all about, just like with a lot of Mission Impossible movies, it's very difficult to kind of understand where are they going to go with this, and was this really a good idea? And then by the end of it, you're like, oh my God, that was brilliant! Like that was so good.
Yeah.
And it's just every little piece of a Mission Impossible movie that they do, they've done it in this one as well. This is a must see, and now I have to wait at least a year for the conclusion of this franchise, and I'm just like, I just can't wait. The only downside for me, and
let's talk about the downside after. Let me talk, because there's a couple points I want to discuss with you.
Okay.
So I started watching a lot of the Mission Impossibles too, and I'm with you. I think what's crazy about this series is, typically when you hear about sequels, there's usually, the law of depreciating assets, right? And it's like each movie just gets a little, it's like just keeps going, the bar keeps lowering and lowering.
Because it keeps getting more and more ridiculous.
Right. Again, but I think what you're seeing, and especially Tom Cruise specifically, and this is more Tom Cruise, the producer, versus the actor, but Tom Cruise, the producer, doesn't take shortcuts. And we saw this with Top Gun Maverick, and how much the actors and the camera people and like how much they had to put in the work because they weren't going to cheat the audience. And this film was no different. Now, granted, there's a lot more CGI in this film than Top Gun Maverick, but the CGI was pretty minimal in terms of like not leading the effects, if that will. It was more complementing the effect versus like it's just 100% CGI effect. You know, most of it.
Yeah, and it was pretty clean. It
Yeah,
was appropriate,
yeah,
and
it
it
was
needed to be
appropriate. That's
done. It needed
yeah,
to be done, and it was well done. I mean, there's not a lot of negative things that I can say or even think about this movie. I'm sure if I watched it 2, 3 times, I can start to really nitpick at it. But this is a brilliant film.
yeah. And like you talked about the Rome sequence earlier, and like that sequence again. What made that sequence? We saw one sequence in Fast X where again it was just ridiculous, right?
A
And
giant ball.
yeah, just giant ball wrecking things, but they didn't actually wreck things, right? And that's a good thing. But in this film, you're actually watching, Tom Cruise's car just get annihilated, and you can see like the actors are getting pretty roughed up. Like it was thrilling to see, but like you're saying, they added in some humor too, and it wasn't forced humor too. It was just like again, good writing, good acting, and it
Very
was
natural, very
just,
funny.
yeah, it was just so well done, and I'm the part of the next question I want to ask you, Pete, because I agree with you. I can just gush over this, but I think what a lot of people want to know is where do you rank this movie in terms of the other Mission Impossibles?
Oof. I mean, it's up there. I mean, I'd have to rewatch them all in a binge. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? To really kind of rank them properly. I mean, they're all so good. I might put this one as high as like even number two. Because I mean, the first one was so incredible. First time I saw the first Mission Impossible, I didn't even get it. Like I left the theater and I was like, what just happened?
yeah,
And then I watched it a second time and I'm like, okay, that's what they were doing. And then I understood the formula of what Mission Impossible movies were going to become. And
yeah,
so, and that made me love it even more. The fact that I had to go back and see it again because I loved it so much, but I didn't understand it. Like it fooled me, right? Like I
yeah,
just wasn't anticipating it. This is just so well done that I might put it up there at least top three. It's really that good.
yeah,
It was well worth the wait. Like it's not like seeing a million Avatar Way of Water, previews and getting pissed
yeah,
off every time because you're like, 10 years later, like I don't care, even though it
yeah,
was awesome.
yeah,
Um, every time I saw a trailer for this movie, I just got more and more amped up and I got more and more excited because of the fact that each movie leading up to this movie has just exceeded my expectations every single time because I'm waiting for that moment of like, okay, these movies are no longer good. Tom Cruise doesn't know what he's doing. The writing team just go write something new, please. But I've never experienced that one time with
yeah,
any of the Mission Impossible movies. There's just always something incredible about it.
yeah. What's crazy
Not,
about
it's not forced escalation either, right? It's
yeah.
just it just gets better. They want to top themselves, and they don't take no for an answer. They just want to make sure that things are amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the IMDb rankings of all the films, just to kind of see what
Mm.
general kind of consensus was. And the crazy, crazy, crazy thing is, with the exception of the second one, all of them are pretty much getting better and better and better as each one comes out. So you have the first one had a 7.1, number two had
Yeah.
6.1, and that was the one directed by John Woo, which a lot of the cinematography I liked, but the story is a little rough on that one. So I can see why MI2 is probably slightly less. Although again, I like how some of the shots are like, he's the king of slow motion, and so some of it's kind of cool. And then the third one, I believe, where did the third one go? The third one got seven, I think about Oh, here it is. And the third one got 6.9. Then the fourth one, Ghost Protocol, got 7.4.
Hmm?
The fifth one got 7.4. And then the sixth one, Fallout, got 7.7. So the last one was actually the highest ranked one. And then this one is coming at an 8.2, which is
Yeah, 8.2.
and so again, like according to the people, this one's the best one. I'm gonna actually agree with that. I'm gonna go, I don't know if it's considered a hot take, but I rewatched one, I rewatched two, I'm on three right now. But yeah, I think when you're just talking about how tight it is, and just now you have a little bit more different characters.
There's no fat on this
You're-
one.
yeah, but I think the writing's better. I think Tom Cruise's acting's even better. That's possible, and I think everything just works better. And so I'm gonna put this one as my favorite so far. Like, again, it's really hard to come in and just like hit expectations. Like the whole time I'm like, when is this jump gonna happen? Like, I was curious on how it was gonna work, and then once it kind of came around, you're like, that's awesome. And so
So
again,
good.
I really like this one. I'd probably put the first one as number two, only because that's the first one. But this one again just has more real stuff to it compared to like the original. And Ghost Protocol is probably my three. I really like Ghost Protocol. That was the one that really got me into the series because I didn't remember watching three when it first came out.
Hmm.
Uh, I think I had a little fatigue by the third one, but then the fourth one I was back in it. So yeah, that's my rankings on it.
Let's say my only nitpicky thing I didn't like about this film was the fact that the girl that played Paris, which was one of the bad guys, like she's like one of the main, she's like the number two of the bad guy, right? It's
Palm
I
Clementov.
feel like the what?
Palm Clementov.
I don't know what her name is.
Is she
The Asian,
Mantis?
the blonde Asian
Yeah,
girl.
that's Palm
The
Clementine. She's Mantis in Gardens of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but I mean the badass Asian number two isn't that a little bit overplayed at this point? Like it just seems like every movie has like this badass Asian girl who just kicks butt all the time.
Yeah,
And not to say that she didn't do well. Like she did a great job, and I loved her character. I just feel like that aspect is like overplayed. Like I've seen it a million times. That was the only unoriginal part of this movie that I saw. And again, that's like nitpicky stuff.
yeah,
Either
yeah,
way, must see. Go see it today if you haven't.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and there's a couple other scenes were just great. I loved Henry Cierney in this one. He was from Clear and Present Danger, is how I know him the most. He's Kittredge. He's been in it since the beginning, but I really liked him in this one as well. But
Yep.
yeah, go see this. Chris McCory, great job. This guy is on the rise. He also wrote Top Gun Maverick. Talking about one of
He,
the other.
he and he did Jack Reacher, which is a very underrated Tom Cruise film. It's a really good film.
Yeah, that one is good. But yeah, definitely go see this. Highly recommended. I'm gonna definitely try and see this again as soon as possible. So with that, Pete, let's move on to our next one. Sound of Freedom. And this movie is about ultimately child trafficking. This is based on a true story. Tim Ballard, I believe, is the name. He's a Homeland Security officer who gets caught into kind of a child trafficking case, but his job is to go after the predators. And through that, he ultimately kind of changes course and decides to go and actually find the children. So that's the premise of the movie. We're definitely going to talk about this movie, but I do want to talk slightly about the controversy of this movie because that's what seems to be grabbing the headlines. Somehow this movie has become political, and there's two sides where people are just saying this is, QAnon conspiracy. I don't know if I pronounced that right. And then versus others are just like, it's stuff really happens. It's a big time trade. And the
Yeah,
stats, the stats to me don't lie. I mean, I know those stats are actually confirmed, so I don't see how this is so much of a conspiracy versus like I don't know. It's pretty
I
plausible.
think the controversy lies with the fact that the studio that made this movie, Angel Studios, I believe, is a very right wing,
Yeah,
sort of leaning religious
yeah, there,
making sort of movies. And so, but I think that the brilliance of this film, among many reasons, is the fact that this movie steers clear of anything political. That's why I feel like that this is like almost like a waste of time topic,
yeah.
because this movie doesn't adhere to any sort of political agenda or
No, I agree.
religious
I agree.
agenda at all. This is a really, really powerful, well done movie about a very heavy subject matter. And what it does that's really kind of brilliant, it's PG-13, which is like, how do you do a movie about child trafficking and the and sort of it takes you to very specific moments that are very uncomfortable and very heartbreaking and really traumatic to watch, and then they cut away. You know what I mean? It's like you
Yeah.
don't need to see this kind of stuff, right? And they really do a good job. And as a movie, Jim Caviezel is, I think that he's highly touted as an actor. I think the public can agree that he's an amazing actor. I don't think
Yeah.
that they realize how amazing he is. He makes you feel everything with just his eyes. And his performance in this movie is incredible. And I shed a few tears at the end of this movie for sure. You know, I'm a dad
Yeah.
and I can only imagine, right? And
Uh,
so you really get wrapped up in it. Even if you're not a father, I don't see how you can not be affected by this film. But this is a brilliant film.
no,
Really, really.
there was a great line in this movie, and this is not going to spoil anything, but there's a line where the dad uh the dad says like Caviezel says something to him, and he's like, how do you expect me to sleep when one of my children's bed's empty? It's something along the lines
Oh,
of that. And it's just like, yeah, you're just
yeah.
that one was
Yeah, and then his response, or like his next line is like, "What would you do in this scenario if one?"
yeah,
Because he had Jim Caviezel's character has like 6 kids, 7 kids, or something like that.
yeah.
It's like, well, what if one of those beds were empty? Would you stop? Would you rest? Would you just give up?
And
You know?
that actor's been in stuff too. He's a good actor.
No, he's a good actor for sure.
I forget his
And the
name.
little girl who plays the girl that gets kidnapped, she's incredible. Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, you feel the pain and the fear. And this girl can't be more than 10, 11 years old in real life. Like, I don't even know, but amazing performance by this little girl.
Jose
And
Zuniga.
yeah, he's been in so much stuff. Like, he's one of those guys that when you see him, you're like, oh yeah, he's good.
He was in
Same
Mission
with
Impossible 3.
Same with the guy that plays Vampiro, the guy with the hat, the guy
Yeah.
who used to be a trafficker who became a good guy.
Yeah.
His name is Bill Camp. You've seen him in a million things.
Yeah.
And then what's her name is in this as well. It plays the wife. Um, she's in a
Ah,
bunch of.
I know I remember him from he was in Con Air. He was one of the DA agents.
Oh yeah.
That's how I recognized him.
Mhm. Anyways, this got an 8.5 on IMDb. This is a great movie. This is a movie that you kind of tune out all of the outside noise
Yeah,
around
just
this
go watch it.
film, and it's a must see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. And
No,
Jim Caviezel is second to none at this point. He's so good.
you're gonna love my comp for this one, Pete. So my comp for this movie is and I don't think it's on the level of these two movies, but I think it's there. It's below it. But Sicario and Rambo Last Blood. So
Which I
Rambo
never saw.
Rambo Last Blood was is pretty good. Uh Rambo Last Blood is a very similar topic where it deals with Rambo's niece getting abducted, and Rambo has to go. So it's very similar to that with less obviously Rambo, right? Like it's more regular guy versus Rambo. And then obviously Sicario, where it's about, basically kind of these ops and going, basically into enemy lines and conducting these ops.
Yeah.
I think it's a very
And
similar to those.
yeah, the differences are that, Sicario, and I can assume Rambo doesn't really take you to that edge of what you potentially could be witnessing, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't take you to that moment where, one of the traffickers walks up to the bed and starts to take his pants off, right? And you're just like, come on, cut away, cut away, cut away. And then they do, and you're like, hell, thank God. Great movie. Go see it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Next we have Joyride, and this
Lighten
was
it up.
written by Sherry, long last name. She's from Family Guy fame,
Yep.
and directed by Adele Kim, right? Did
I
I
think
get
it's Lim. Adele
Lim?
Lim. This is her debut as a director.
She's been a writer though. She wrote
Yep. She did a great job.
Crazy Asians, right?
Yeah.
Rich Asians. Jeez, that's one not one to mess up, huh?
Mm.
But yeah, so Adele Lim, yeah, directed this one. I'll go first on this one. Yeah, so you had texted me, Pete, and you're like, you know, Joyride's pretty fucking funny. And I was like, wow, like that's a pretty good review. You don't typically, especially when it comes to comedies, you don't typically
So hard. I mean, I'm such a comedy fan. Like,
yeah,
there's just so many ways to just make them horrible.
yeah. But this one, I think what it does a good job of, and we talk about this in some of our other comedy reviews, but it just pushes the envelope on jokes, on situations. Like there's many situations in this where it's funny and you kind of just don't know where it's going to go. And again, they don't hold back. And
Right.
usually sometimes with these comedies, like the main character is always like the cleanest one, if for lack of a better word.
Oh
Um,
yeah, but she's
but she was, yeah, she was
bad.
foul. She was adventurous too, and it worked. Like all the characters were really well written and well acted. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this was just better than I thought. The
So good.
one of the comps I would have for this would be I mean, Bridesmaids, would be a comp. I don't
Sure.
know. I don't know if it's quite on Bridesmaids level. But
No.
there's some scenes where it's funnier than Bridesmaids. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's got it's can compete with it. And the other one was Girls Trip. Girls Trip. Yeah, yeah, Girls Trip. Definitely reminded me kind of a Girls Trip. I actually think I might like this a little bit more than Girls Trip because
Yeah.
I think the all the characters are funny versus in Girls Trip, Tiffany Haddish was like the main one that was funny, but then the other characters weren't necessarily funny. Um, they had like some comedic parts, but it was really carried by Tiffany Haddish versus this one. All the
Right.
characters really carried their own weight and could really hold their own. So I definitely recommend it. This is a super surprise hit. And it's definitely up there at top comedies of the year. I'm not afraid.
Yeah. I might be so bold as to say it's comedy of the year for sure. In my book.
Yeah, I
You'll
thought I
know.
got to see what I said for that was last week. What did I say? Oh, did I say No Hard Feelings? No, I think I like this more than No Hard Feelings.
Definitely. Even though that has the star power behind it, but you'll recognize several of the actresses in this one. If you loved Emily in Paris, the main girl is Ashley Park. She's in this. She's the star. And then Stephanie Sue,
Right.
you recognize her from everything everywhere all at once, where she
Yeah, she
was
was the
just
daughter.
phenomenal.
Yeah, she was the daughter.
And she's real good in this as well. Yeah, this was funny. This was raunchy. It had a lot of heart as well, and it was edited really, really beautifully. I mean, the sequences were put
Oh
together
yeah,
in
you're right. I'll
such a
jump in.
way.
Dude, the
It
pace
was
was fantastic.
hilariously paced. I mean, comedy of the year, and I believe some of the producers of it. One of them was I was about to say Joe Rogan, Seth Rogen, and then who's the other guy?
Evan Goldberg.
Yeah. So I mean, they were on board. I mean, that's what kind of popped out when I started looking at this film in the first place, which sort of made me want to watch it. And I'm super glad I did. If you're looking for a great comedy, this is the one to go and see.
Yeah, I agree. Well said, Pete. Yeah, I think you're right. This might be my number one comedy of the year. I'm looking at the
So
list
good.
on the main movies, and I'm not seeing one that I think I like more. So
Right.
definitely check that out. Hot take by Pete and Paul. Next we have The Outlaws, which is, I did not know this. It's on Netflix, but it's a Happy Madison production.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell that you can definitely see some of the assorted cast members that typically are in some of the productions. Uh,
Right.
even Alan Covert produced it. Of he's the 10-second Tom, right? That Alan
Is
Covert.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi,
Uh,
I'm Tom.
yeah. So, Pete, what were your thoughts on Outlaws?
Well, I mean, we just talked about the comedy of the year, and I think that this is the opposite. This is we're talking about an edgy, funny, hysterical movie in Joyride. I felt that this one was just very safe. It
Yeah.
was just not edgy at all. I kind of expected more from a Happy Madison production, to be honest. I thought the casting I thought it on paper should have worked better. I mean, there are some very positive things about this film. Don't get me wrong. I expected more, especially after I learned it was a Happy Madison production. I just thought it was safe. If you need to watch something and you have Netflix, then great. It's just not something that I would recommend just running out and going and saying. It just didn't hit me. Um,
Yeah. I don't think I've as
there were some very funny moments, and there's some cool little action sequences. I think Pierce Brosnan is just one of these naturally funny guys. He did really well. Um, Nice to see Nina Dobrev do something outside of Vampire Diaries. So she's easy on the eyes as
yeah.
well. This week has a lot of cutie pies. It's just not that great. It's fine. It's a fine movie.
Yeah, like I do like Adam Devine. He makes me laugh.
I
Uh
just didn't think this was his best film.
I
This
don't
wasn't his best
I would agree with
performance.
that. I didn't like this as much as I like Jexy. I really like Jexy. Um but I agree with your initial premise, which is I don't think this one pushed the envelope enough. There was some funny scenes in it. Um the beginning I thought was actually, it got better in the mid in the middle, but I thought the beginning could have been a little bit funnier and got the movie better on track.
I will say, uh, Lauren Lapkus, who plays Phoebe King, the other bank
Yeah,
manager or the other bank owner, she's always
yeah, she's
laughing, rolling on the floor. This girl she knows comedy and she knows how to perform it, and she is the shining star of this. Even though she's got like a minute and a half of screen time, like
yeah,
she steals everything that she's a part of. She's so funny.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I, I adore her.
yeah. I don't think this movie is a waste of time. I think if you
No,
like probably the lesser Adam Sandler films, I think this is on the lesser Adam Sandler films. This is not 51st Dates level. This is, you know, I'm trying to think. Maybe the Do Over, those kind of I mean, I liked it more than Murder Mystery, I'll tell you that much. Murder Mystery 2. I thought this one
oh
was
yeah, but I mean that's like, gee, thanks. Come on.
all right. Well, so see it kind of at your own risk. Like I said, it's streaming. I don't think it's the worst streaming film
No,
to watch. I think for streaming, I think it works.
yeah,
Um,
it's fine.
check that out. Next, we have Insidious: The Red Door. This is number one in the box office right now,
Right.
beating Indiana Jones. Um,
Not
uh,
good. Not good for Indiana Jones.
yeah. Well, Insidious, this outperformed projections. So,
Yeah.
and Indiana Jones, I was just looking at the numbers. Indiana Jones is on. It might actually make its money back. It's not
Oh,
doing terrible overseas, and last time I checked, it was at 250 worldwide.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I'm glad they needed a rebound after
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
Wow.
they knew they spent a lot of money. They spent 300 million on this, but
Yeah.
which is way too much. But yeah, it's at 258. So that's not bad. Another weekend in the box office, and
Yeah.
it's 130 domestic, which isn't bad. If it can somehow squeak to 160 in
Let's go,
domestic and
Indiana
get,
Jones. Come on.
yeah, let's go, buddy.
We're with
So
you.
Pete, Insidious, I didn't see this one, but you did. Go ahead.
Yes, this is the fifth installment. This one's actually directed by Patrick Wilson, who's basically the star of all of them, and um, he I think he did really well as a director, as a first time director. I think that this movie you're going to hear a lot of very negative things about, and I certainly have a lot of negative things to say about it, even though I won't say it. I will say that it does sort of close up the Insidious world in a good way. I think Patrick Wilson did something a little bit different with this one. The only problem with the Insidious sort of franchise is sort of the direction that it took prior to this film, and I don't think that that's Patrick Wilson's fault as the director. The first two movies, the first one especially, are still one of the movies that has scared me the most in my life ever. That and Sinister, like those two movies just messed me up. They were so frightening, but they were horror. This has really gone, Insidious has really gone as a franchise into very much more supernatural, and uh, it's just sort of a weird direction. And so basically the first 30 minutes of this film is just a buildup to them getting back into this sort of other world, this other dimension that they have to go into in order to destroy this being that's been haunting them their whole lives. Problem with that is that we as an audience have seen all of these movies, and so it just felt like we were waiting for the characters on the screen to sort of catch up to where we were, right? And so it was just paced not great. I mean, there's plenty of cool stuff in this movie. It's not as bad as you're going to hear. It's definitely worth a viewing, especially if you're looking to get scared a couple times. It just
Well,
isn't the best.
what on that, everybody that I was in the theater for, I think to see Indiana Jones, were
Yeah.
all about this movie. So,
Yep.
you know, I'm not trying to undermine you at all, Pete, but
No.
the people like this. The people that work there liked it. So this might be more, if you're, I don't even know how to phrase it, but
This is right up my alley. Like these are my kind of movies for sure. Like I love these horror thrillers. It's just tough. As opposed to Mission Impossible that just continues to elevate.
yeah,
This franchise, we've seen things on a steady decline. And I think that at its core is because they've moved away from that horror aspect, which kind of made this franchise great. They went off script basically. They went in a different direction. And it's not this movie's fault that they went off course. It did the best that it could. It could have been better. It's still a fine time. It's just not. It's just not what I was expecting at all. I expected to watch this. Like I watch it during the day because I get scared easily, and I didn't need to see this during the day.
yeah, yeah. All right,
Great
let's
scenes in it. Like there's great scenes in it too. So I mean, don't get me wrong.
Okay, moving on. Next, we have The Blackening. This came out a couple weeks ago, but we wanted to check it out. I actually just purchased it just because it was easier for me to watch it from home than to go to the theater, just because I was running out of my AMC movies because I watched Indiana Jones too many times. But
AMC Pass.
yeah, what were your thoughts on this one, P? I want to hear what your thoughts is before I come in with mine.
I thought it was good. I thought that the actors were really funny together. I thought the casting was really well done. I didn't like the uh, uh, what's his name, Clarence, the goofball, the oddball,
Yeah.
glasses. I didn't like him at all.
Yeah.
Um, he was annoying, but I think maybe that was the point. But he was just
Yeah.
over the top annoying. But I thought all the other characters were just so funny and perfectly placed. Um, I thought it was a good ride. Like I enjoyed
Yeah.
myself through the entire thing only because of the comedy. I mean, the story itself is ridiculous.
Yeah. The story was a little lacking, but I
It's so
agree.
silly. But I thought because of these actors and the writing and the way that they were able to perform comedically, and that banter back and forth, it's almost as if like I really believe that they all were best friends in high school. Like they were a group in high school together that are meeting up again 10 years later. I totally bought into that. And that's a testament to the writing and it's a testament to the acting as well. It was really, really well done in that sense. Story's goofy, but it's a comedy. It's a horror comedy, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
supposed to be goofy.
yeah, it's more of a spoof horror because it's not really trying to scare you. It's definitely trying to.
Yeah, and it's so funny the not trusting of white people strewn throughout the movie is just hilarious. It's funny. It's the funniest thing ever. It's like every
Yeah,
time somebody says something and they just all turn to each other like and they make a comment, even though it's not an appropriate time in the movie to make a comment to each other, they do it anyways, and it's so funny.
yeah. The black humor in this is
So
very
good.
funny. And even just like you're saying, the jokes, like like other of the characters not being black enough, or I think one of the girls is half white, and so they just kind of attack her, and so all that banter is really, really funny. I'm kind of
And
with
the
you.
last
I
line,
didn't really
the
like.
last line of the movie is hilarious.
I didn't really like that would be like the biggest thing is like, again, I think the story, yeah, isn't amazing, but I thought it would have been funnier if they made the killer like, going back to like who's the blackest person, and they started like they would start attacking each other. But I think that
Yeah.
would be more, I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks that would have been more funny versus like the nerdy, but yeah, spoiler alert. Oops, whatever.
The spoiler. Yeah, sorry, because I was gonna say the same thing, like without trying to spoil it. Like I guessed. I knew that he was the killer or was involved. Like I knew it from the beginning. You can just tell. It was just so obvious. But the ride is really funny. This is definitely worth a
I don't even
viewing.
think it mattered. I didn't really care.
Tim Story, who directed the movie, Tim Story did a great job with this film. He did Barbershop. He did Fantastic Four, which
Yeah.
we don't really talk about. Ride Along, which was good. It's a good movie.
Yeah, right on. Awesome. All right, Pete. Let's wrap this up. So
Wrap it up by saying if you don't want to watch The Outlaws on Netflix, you can watch the Wham documentary. It's really good.
Oh, there you go. So next week we'll have two big films. We have. Wait, is just Barbie or is it just Oppenheimer?
Both.
Oh, both. Okay. So yeah, obviously the big film, I would say the biggest film is Oppenheimer, but its counterpart and has just as much star power is Barbie, and both of those premieres just happened. But the reviews are good for both of those, so looking forward to checking those out.
My number one most anticipated film at the beginning of this year was Oppenheimer, so I'm on pins and needles.
Yeah,
Wait.
good. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. And with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.